Neopets is turning 25 this year. Oh my god. So today I will be using a full team of Pokemon based on Neopets. Except I won't be doing that. Because there are so many of these silly little creatures that exist, I'll instead be using 2 teams of Pokemon based on Neopets. And let me just say, one of these teams might actually be one of the worst I've ever used. If you have an idea for a Pokemon team, be sure to comment below, and I will use it. And if you like this kind of content, feel free to subscribe. Now let's get right into the battles. Good morning, afternoon, and evening, lovely people. Today I am using 2 Neopets teams. Now, this is very experimental, but I didn't want to just use one team for this franchise, so I decided, if there's like franchises that have like several different characters, I might as well just use 2 teams. And let me just say, these 2 teams were like really rough. So my lead Phanpy is unfortunately gonna get flinched. I actually have a Stealth Rock on this Phanpy, so dang, I was denied my Stealth Rock. That's really unfortunate. So into my Rampardos here for Grarl. I love this name so much. Now, unfortunately, Tyrantrum isn't in this game, but at least Rampardos is a dinosaur, right? So I'm running a special Rampardos. This is Sheer Force Life Orb, and I take it out with the Ancient Power, so that's pretty neat. Now, in comes the Arboliva. Now, I do have a Ice Beam on this as well. Rampardos actually gets a pretty interesting special boost for his coverage, but yeah, its special attack is not exactly great, and the Arboliva is going to end up being Citrus Berry Harvest, so I'm like, yeah, my Rampardos is not going to be able to take this hit. Sheer Force boosted hits from that Pokemon are actually, they're actually really strong. So, into my Paldean Tauros here for Cal. I thought this was a really good fit. This was also like the best Pokemon on my team. This is a fully defensive Paldean Tauros. Now I have Body Press, I have Raging Bull, and I have Rest and Sleep Talk. So in comes the Quaxclaval. Now I knew that I wasn't really going to be beating this thing 1v1, especially since it could like snowball really quickly with Aqua Step. So I'm going to bring in Meganium here for Chomby. Now I was thinking, I know this probably has an Ice move, but I hope that I take it at the very least. And I do. I lived on 10 health. I was like, yes, that's really good. That's going to proc my weakness policy. This is a weakness policy Meganium. This is a pretty interesting set. I have Energy Ball. I have Terra Blast Electric on this. And I have Trailblaze to boost my speed. And I have Encore on this as well. So I'm going to be able to take out the Quaxclaval with the Energy Ball, which is nice. And in comes the Excalibur. Now, the only thing I really had on this was Terra Blast in it, and it really doesn't do much of anything. And they actually end up going for Ice Beam, which I was like, what the heck, Ice Beam? That's pretty interesting. So there goes my Meganium to that, but weakness policy Meganium, it's so good. So into my Apom, unfortunately, I just barely missed out on the KO. I'm running a Choice Bandit Apom here for, how the heck do you pronounce this creature? Is it Minky or Monkey? It's not Monkey, that's not, because it has a Y in it, but there goes my my Apom to the Brick Bank. It also had a Rocky Helmet, and with the Double Edge plus Rocky Helmet recoil, it was just bad. So into my Gabite here. Now, unfortunately, Sharpedo's not in the game, so I had to use Gabite as to suffice. So this is a Choice Scarf Gabite. I'm running Earthquake. I'm running Iron Head, Dragon Claw, and Stone Edge as my last move with Terra Steel on that. Now, back into my Tauros here, I didn't want to necessarily risk going for another Earthquake in case they terrestrialized or ended up living. So they're gonna go for the Ice Hammer on me actually. So it's a good thing that I ended up swapping because I was absolutely getting taken out by that. So the Tinkaton isn't really gonna be doing a lot of damage to me, and I'm gonna be able to take it out with the Raging Bull. Now, this was where a pretty problematic Pokemon came in, and that's Ceruledge. Now, I was wondering, does this Pokemon have Flash Fire or Weak Armor? And it ends up having Flash Fire. So I was like, well, this stinks because I'm completely walled by this. It's Shadow Ball, by the way. I'm completely walled by this Pokemon. And I don't really want to swap in my Choice Scarf Gabite on this because I don't want that to take damage because Earthquake isn't going to be able to one-shot this Pokemon. So I'm going to leave in my Tauros here, go for some Body Presses. I know that they're not doing much of anything because I really don't have any other options. I'm just thankful that this Pokemon doesn't have like Swords Dance. So they're going to take me out there with the Shadow Ball, and I thought, okay, well, everything rides on my Gabite. It depends on what Terra they have, and it depends on how much damage that I do versus this. So they're going to end up terrestrializing, of course. I'm like, please don't be Terra Flying, but they're Terra Dark. So I was like, okay, that's good. At least they're not Terra Flying. At least my Earthquake isn't going to isn't gonna be immune. So going for that Earthquake here, and it doesn't do a lot of damage. I'm like, oh no, it's a 3-hit KO. But they go for Dragon Claw. I was like, oh my gosh, they have Dragon Claw, but I lived on 5 health, and the rough skin damage is actually going to put them in range for my Earthquake to potentially take them out. So I'm like, there's no way this is happening right now. So I'm gonna Terrasilize it in Terra Steel just because there was no reason for me to do this. I just wanted to show it off. And I'm gonna be able to go for the Earthquake. They do not have Shadow Sneak, and that takes out the Ceruledge. Wow, that was way too close. I honestly didn't Terrasilize that initial turn just because if they went for like a fire move or something, like Bitter Blade, I would have just made myself weak to that. So that's the end of that first game. That team was bad, but this team right here, if you recognize all the Pokemon and the silhouettes in the left, it's rough. This team was, I cannot count on my one hand or two hands how many times I just got like swept turn 1 and lead matchup. So yeah, this team was like extremely rough. It might be one of the worst teams I've used personally, but yeah, I have this lead Geodude here, and I get flinched by Ironhead. I'm tired of my lead Pokemon getting flinched. So at the very least, I was able to set up my Stealth Rock, and I get up my Custap Berry Explosion. I'm lucky that this Dragonite didn't have extreme speed. That would have been really bad because then this Pokemon would have had its multi-scale kept. So they're gonna I'm gonna take them out there. I'm running a Earthquake and Stone Edge. I'm actually running a max attack on that as well with max defense, just in case I face off against a Pokemon with a multi-hitting move. So into my Totodile here for Croc, I go for that counter and I take out the Dragonite. I went for counter. I have Ice Punch on that set, but I went for counter just in case they opted to go for like I don't know, in case they opted to go for like Earthquake or something. Or they opted to Terrasilize, that's what I meant. So the Blissey is gonna end up tricking me a Choice Scarf. I'm like, what the heck, this Choice Scarf Blissey? I actually opted to go for the Dragon Dance just to free set up on this thing, but now I'm unfortunately locked into Dragon Dance versus this, and I'm like, well, that sucks. I have to swap out my Totodile here, and I'm gonna go into Minccino. Now, yeah, Minccino is extremely frail, but I do have Tidy Up at the very least, so I should be able to like tidy up away the Stealth Rock set up by this Blissey. But the Blissey is gonna end up Terrasilizing. I was like, what the heck? So they're gonna be Terra Ghost. They definitely expected like a normal move on this, which I have. Obviously I have Tail Slap on this. And I'm going to go for the Tidy Up here, and I'm going to clean up whatever the Stealth Rocks is. Unfortunately, I'm going to be able to clean up my own Stealth Rocks that I set up on the opponent's side of the field, but I really needed to get rid of the Stealth Rocks on my side because, yeah, Stealth Rocks were really, they were really scuffed into me. So I'm going to go for the knockoff here. I'm running knockoff on this. I'm also running Endure with a Salac Berry. The Blissey ends up going for Trick, so I'm like, oh my goodness, they're gonna trick away my my Salac Berry. I'm not gonna be able to get a speed boost. That's fine. I'm gonna be able to 2-hit KO the Blissey at the very least, and I'm like, okay, Minccino gets a KO, and I'm also gonna be able to knock out their Terra Pokemon, so I don't have to worry about Terrasilization in the future. So in comes the Magneton. Not sure if this is running Sturdy, but I know that this could be running a Violite. Look, that does nothing. Oh my goodness. And they're going to go for the Charge Beam, and that actually is enough to take me out. Oh my goodness, this Pokemon is so frail. I'm not sure if this Magneton is running Analytic or if it's running Sturdy, but it does take me out. Now, into my Litleo here for Kugra. Now, I'm going to go for the Fire Blast, and Fire Blast just absolutely one-shots Magneton. Oh my goodness. So, that's a great KO. I'm running Moxie on this, not that it matters, even though I do have Flame Charge to boost my speed. This is a pretty interesting Litleo set. But in comes Toxapex, and yeah, Toxapex is pretty notorious because it basically slows down any game that it's a part of. It's just an extremely stally Pokemon, and I'm going to get Toxic Infestation by this thing. Now, I didn't really have much for this. I do have Terra Blast Electric on this as well. With Weakness Policy, I have a Weakness Policy Litleo. But unfortunately, I'm not going to be able to get off that because of the Toxic and Infestation damage racking up. And that's basically going to be the end of my Litleo. The Terra Electric Terra Blast wasn't really going to be doing much to Pex anyway. So, into Dragonite. Now, this was easily, Choiru here was easily the best Pokemon on my team. That being said, I didn't even one-shot this Toxapex with Earthquake, unfortunately. It just barely lived. But I'm running up, this is like the most standard set I probably ever ran in any of my teams so far. This is a Dragon Dance Dragonite with Terra Normal E, Extreme Speed. And it has Earthquake, and it also has Encore on this. So I can Encore any like status moves and like potentially get more like Dragon Dances as well. So pretty interesting move to run on it. Now, I'm gonna Terrasilize into the normal type and get off my Terra Normal Extreme Speed versus this Grimmsnarl, which I was 100% expecting was gonna be like full screens, right? Because that's what typically all Grimmsnarls run when you face them on Wi-Fi. So, going for that Extreme Speed, it doesn't really 3-hit KO, unfortunately. So I'm thinking that it might be more defensive than especially defensive. So I was like, okay, well, it has leftovers. It doesn't have Light Clay, so I'm like, that's good. Maybe it doesn't have dual screens. So I'm gonna swap out my Dragonite. I don't want to eat like a Thunder Wave or anything, so kind of want to scout out what the Grimmsnarl is gonna do versus me. So they're gonna end up going for Parting Shot. So I'm like, okay, well, that's unfortunate. They're probably gonna bring in their Toxapex. This Totodile is Choice Scarf, so it's not really gonna be doing much to the Toxapex. I only have Liquidation and Ice Punch on this, so I'm thinking here, is this Toxapex gonna go for the Recover as I swap? If they go for Recover, I mean, it's not the end of the world. I can lock them in with my Dragonite and go for like Encore versus them, and then after this, I could swap out another Pokemon of mine. Oh my jeez, another Pokemon and potentially like set up on this. So they're gonna get more of that leftovers recovery. And I was thinking here, well, obviously Earthquake is not really gonna be doing a lot, and like I know that they're probably gonna recover spam potentially. So I'm gonna lock them into Recover. And I was like, okay, well, I do have my Eevee in the back, and I do have a setup move on that Eevee that I could go for versus this Toxapex, and hopefully I could be able to do a lot of damage versus this and like the rest of their team maybe. So swapping out my Dragonite, and I'm gonna go into Eevee. Now this, first of all, how the heck do you pronounce this Neopets name? It's like Exweetok, or I don't even know how to pronounce that. I'm probably pronouncing it very wrong, but this is a Calm Mind Eevee. Now with adaptability boost and like Terra Blast, it actually hits pretty hard after some special attack boosts. So it's not exactly a joke of a Pokemon, right? So on this set, I'm running a Calm Mind, Alluring Voice, Shadow Ball, and Terra Blast. Obviously with adaptability, Terra Blast is like really good for this Pokemon, and I also have Terra Blast Fire on this. Well, I also have Terra Fire on this to potentially like hit a Steel type for really super effective damage. So I'm gonna get taunted by this Grimmsnarl, which is unfortunate, and then I'm gonna get paralyzed. So I'm like, okay, this looks like it's like an extremely utility Grimmsnarl. It basically looks like the move that Grimmsnarl would run if it wasn't running dual screens, right? Like it has Thunder Wave, it has a Parting Shot to like momentum, it has Taunt, and it has Spirit Break as its attack. So I was like, okay, well, I should be able to eat this Spirit Break. I'm running in a Violite on this Eevee with max health and modest nature, so going for that Terra Blast versus the Grimmsnarl, I'm going to be able to take it out. I do a lot of damage to it, so there goes the Grimmsnarl. So I was like, okay, that's really good. The Eevee came in like super handy there. Now, in comes to Jumpluff. Now, I wasn't really sure what this Pokemon was going to do, so I ended up swapping out into my Totodile. I was 100% anticipating like a full sacrifice if this was like Leech Seed or something, but it ends up being an Encore. So I'm like, okay, well, that's a free switch. But then I end up outspeeding it because of my Choice Scarf, and I end up one-shotting the Jumpluff. Oh my goodness, I wasn't expecting to outspeed that. Maybe it didn't have any speed investment. Wow, that was a surprise KO on my part. Also, Jumpluff has such a pretty shiny. They also have a shiny Magneton, and Magneton is like my favorite shiny Pokemon ever. Yeah, I'm not really gonna be able to do much to this Toxapex. I'm kind of hoping for a freeze at this point, but yeah, my Totodile is definitely gonna get taken out here. And my last Pokemon is, well, my last two Pokemon are Eevee, which I wasn't sure how that would end up because of the fact that they could always go for Infestation. Which, by the way, Infestation in this game is really unpleasant. Like, it's like when you take Infestation damage, for some reason the volume gets like really loud, and like while doing this battle, obviously I have headphones, and it's like so like uncomfortable. So I ended up muting anytime this Toxapex had like Infestation shenanigans, and obviously I sped up the battle. Now they're gonna go for the Chilling Water. I'm at -1, and I'm like hoping that this Earthquake takes out the Toxapex. It's gonna be very close, and I end up taking out the Toxapex. That's the end of both games, both teams. Thank you all so much for watching. Like I said, this was very experimental, so hope you enjoyed this new 2-team format for these types of franchises. My name is SkyLaaa. Don't forget to smile, and I will see you all next time.